The Human Mind, F. Willard Brown, Austin Macaulay Publishers. About the author, F. Willard Brown graduated from Cal Poly and the University of Illinois and did additional graduate work at UC Berkeley. He is an author, speaker, educator, and population activist who has worked with International Planned Parenthood, the Population Institute, and the Population Media Center. He has taught at Cal Poly, Palomar College, and UC San Diego. Stars, vapor, snow, the hills, rocks, the fifth month flowers, my amaze, my love. Aware of the buffalo, the peace herds, the bull, strong breasted and hairy, aware of the mockingbird of the wilds at daybreak, solitary, singing in the west, I strike up for a new world. Walt Whitman. Stars, vapor, snow, the hills, rocks, the fifth month flowers, my amaze, my love. Aware of the buffalo, the peace herds, the bull, strong breasted and hairy, aware of the mockingbird of the wilds at daybreak, solitary, singing in the west, I strike up for a new world. Walt Whitman. Preface. The Human Mind grew out of my desire to leave a book which is a compilation of the most important things I have learned in my very long life. After a lifetime of study, I consider myself to be educated, and I am sure there are people who would disagree, and I respect their opinions. However, I say that a man who does not understand science is not fully educated no matter what else he may know. Science is certainly the greatest achievement of the human race, and I am using the word science in the broad sense, which includes psychology and political science. Some will say, what about the arts? Yes, we all enjoy and appreciate the arts, but remember that the arts have not liberated us from our ignorance. It took science to do that. Most of the American public is scientifically illiterate, a consequence of the failure of American public education. This failure permits our leaders to get away with unscientific statements, such as the denial of global warming, etc. Yes, science has been abused, such as it was with the creation of nuclear weapons, just as any tool can be abused or misused. But this does not detract from the beauty and nobility of pure science in its pursuit of truth. As wonderful as science is, I do not rank it in importance above self-knowledge, which is far more important than any other kind of knowing. And unfortunately for the human race, self-knowledge is sadly lacking throughout the entire world. You can see this in the transparent egotism and multiple character deficiencies of our leaders. The chapter, Evolution and Human Consciousness, is an edited version of a lecture I gave at UCSD. In it, I have tried to show the reasons for mankind's homicidal and warlike nature. It is something every human being should understand if we are going to abandon the great evil of nationalism and have peace on this planet. Truth. Here in the 21st century, as I look out in a world of colossal ignorance and violence, what a disappointment it is that there is so little regard for truth. For most people, truth is not high on their list of priorities, if it is on the list at all. The human mind is concerned with gratification of one kind or another, such as the gratification of achievement. Truth is neglected in pursuit of various forms of comfort and gratification. To me, if anything is sacred, it must surely be truth. There is no way untruth can be sacred. A truly religious mind is concerned only with truth. It is not mired in belief. Truth is the highest religion, and by far the most important part of truth is the truth about oneself, the truth that few want. The scientist pursues truth relentlessly, and this accounts for the spectacular success of science. What a contrast with organized religion or politics. However, scientific truth is restricted to that which is material and that which is demonstrable. Historians are concerned with truth if they are good historians, but of course, history, the study of the past, is not demonstrable except for the records the past has left. Obviously, our political leaders and our religious leaders have demonstrated little concern for truth. Our human predicament requires knowledge to live intelligently. That knowledge is always limited, whereas we should remember that the unknown is infinite. We try to get by with what little knowledge we have to make our way in life. Knowledge has its place, but we should bear in mind that all knowledge is limited, narrow, and binding. When testifying in court, we are asked to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Everyone who has taken that oath has lied. What is the whole truth? The whole truth is the whole universe? Obviously, no one knows the whole truth. On the temples of ancient Greece are the words, "Know thyself." This was the supreme form of knowledge for the wisest of the ancient Greeks, but in later centuries that wisdom was forgotten. I suspect the reason the ancient Greeks accomplished so much was because of their great respect for self-knowledge. Bertrand Russell wrote, "In all history, nothing is so surprising or so difficult to account for as the sudden rise of civilization in Greece." 1. Those incredible people gave us science, mathematics, philosophy, democracy, medicine, athletics, drama, and unsurpassed arts and architecture. In other words, they gave us civilization. Education should be lifelong. Today, with the internet, we have entered the information age. There is a superabundance of information available, along with a good deal of propaganda and misinformation. And this is one reason education is so important, to distinguish fact from fiction. We know that in the world today there are poor countries and rich countries. The poor countries are poor because they have a low level of education. The rich countries are rich because they are educated. It's as simple as that. I acknowledge that there are a few oil-rich countries that have a high gross domestic product per capita and a low level of education, but those exceptions are few in number. Unfortunately, many national leaders fail to give importance to educating their people. Instead, they spend large sums on armaments or palaces for themselves. What we learn from science is that, ultimately, truth is the unknown. The human mind has its limitations. For example, take the wave-particle duality of light. The mind says that light must be a wave or a particle. It can't possibly be both. But it is both, and it is neither, because the real world does not conform to our human preconceptions. Christians are going to ask, if self-knowledge is so important, why did our Savior say nothing about it? It turns out he actually did, even though you will not find one word about self-knowledge in the entire Bible. But in 1898, British archaeologists in Egypt discovered a papyrus titled The Sayings of Jesus. You can look it up on Wikipedia. On it are the words, "The way to God is through knowing oneself." I consider this to be much more authentic than anything in the Gospels. We don't really know what Jesus said. Nothing was written down until 40 years after his death. The early Christians put words in his mouth plus a lot of mythology, such as the virgin birth, and the various miracles which destroy the credibility of the account. Those people who say they know themselves are usually the people who have not taken the first step of learning. Of course, you know the history of your life, your likes and dislikes, some of your personality traits, etc. But self-knowledge is something much deeper. Conditioning. And most people don't even know they are conditioned. I once worked in a summer camp where I could observe other people's habits.